so crazy. This guy I was talking to who like found me on multiple dating websites, and I was talking to him on one. I didn't realize he liked me on another. And I was talking to him, and it was like weird. Tried to engage with him and have a positive conversation, and he kept resorting to name calling. He was nice one minute, then he'd freak out because I said I wanted to have a real relationship, get married, and have kids. He told me I was a gold digger. Then we talked some more, and I'm trying to understand why does he think I'm a gold digger because I want to do normal things, get married, have kids, and have a husband. And then I was like, this, and then he's still just like, I just want to go down on you, and that's like all he's set on is wanting to go down. And I'm like trying to figure out, why is this man trying to go down on strangers he doesn't know? And why would I do that anyway? Because that's gross and weird. You can get an STD, and it's like, why would you get with a man that's doing stuff like that? You could catch something. And I'm thinking, okay, this is creepy, but I'm still giving him a chance because I'm trying to figure out if it's a joke or not. And I'm just like, I'm sticking to it. I want a husband and all this, and I want to have kids. And I was saying, if I had, because he's like, it's so expensive and stuff, and he's naming all this stuff. It's stuff I never did as a kid, nothing. And then it's like stuff where if you want to do, you could do it for free, but it's stuff I wouldn't want to do, I never wanted to do, and I wouldn't necessarily let any future kids do. Then he's like, oh, you have to buy them makeup and all this stuff. I'm like, I wasn't allowed to paint my nails, or my dad didn't allow me to paint my nails or wear makeup. If my dad saw me today, he'd be like, you're not allowed to paint your nails, wear makeup, do stuff. It's like, if you want to, you can braid your hair. But my dad was like, can't add anything to your hair, can't change your hair. You need to be natural and accept yourself for who you are. You're beautiful just the way you are. And I'm big on that. My mom was like that too, except my mom, she'd let me do stuff. But I'm all on kids being accepting of who they are and loving who they are and not feeling like they need to change who they are. It's like yourself and your natural self. But if they do have a unibrow or something, I'd be like, okay, you can like fix that or something. But otherwise, love yourself for who you are and your natural self. It was like I was only allowed to get a haircut because my hair was getting pulled in school. Otherwise, my mother would have never let me get a haircut. And then she was getting kind of liberal then, where she let me get a haircut. But if my dad knew, my dad would have been like, no, you can't get a haircut either. Like nothing more than like a trim or something. But my mom, she let me like cut my hair. And it was like, I didn't even want to cut my hair. It was just because I was getting dragged. But I'm all for that. And I was saying how if I want to have a kid, I wanted them to be independent and all this other stuff and know how to take care of themselves. Because I'm like, when I was 3 years old, it's not like I was making like gourmet meals or anything. I was able to make a bowl of cereal, and I had like a sandwich machine that my mom would let me use that she got for me, where you can make warm sandwiches. All you had to do was get a piece of bread and some cheese or something, and then just plug it in and then unplug it when you're done, or use the microwave. Just basic stuff where you can get like three things, put it together, eat it, be able to peel the orange, just basic stuff at like 3 years old. But by the time I was like 5 or 6, I could make ramen and stuff. I could get a bowl, put some water in, and put some ramen in it and stuff like that. So it was like I was making like basic stuff. By the time I was 8, I was at the stove cooking. I was actually at the stove cooking before 8 years old. But it was like I was independent where my mom was home, but it was like I didn't need to go ask her for food. I could get something to eat by myself by the time I was 3. And then also by the time I was 3, I kind of had an idea of how to grow food, and I could also identify food in my yard because my grandparents, they would teach me gardening and stuff. So I knew plant a seed, stuff will grow. I knew what I could eat and what I couldn't eat because my grandparents would take me out in the yard and have me gardening and doing different things and teaching me things. And they would teach me to cook too and read and write. So I'm like, if I had a kid, I'd want my kid to do all these things that I did. It's like my kid, if they want to go play a sport with their friend, like at the park or something, It's like, that's fine. I'm not gonna invest in sports and stuff like that. I rather invest in education, teach them how to read and write and stuff, because it's like, you should teach your kid how to read and write before they go to school. And then you never know the stuff you teach your kid when they're young, like growing stuff, because it's like my garden doesn't look great yet, but you've seen my garden when it grows and when everything goes right and when I actually take care of it. But my garden is kind of a messy garden because I actually have other gardens in other places that I work on. So if my garden doesn't survive, it's not the biggest deal, because I spend a lot of time on other gardens in other places, but I don't show them on here because it's a privacy issue. But this man, he's telling me I'm looking for slaves, and then he's like, "Oh, you're just looking for tax write-offs." And it's like, I'm trying to figure out, where is this man getting this stuff from, and like, why is he going off? And this man's trying to get me to like him, and I'm like, I want to get married, I want a husband. I'm not looking for a one night stand, and like, that's not my thing. I'm looking to get married, have a relationship, have kids, have them grow into strong, healthy adults. And then I was saying that I would want my kids to be independent, because I know when I was 14, when I was legally allowed to get a job, even before I was legally allowed to get a job, I used to have like a lemonade stand and different stuff. But I actually sold Crystal Light instead of lemonade. Sometimes I sold lemonade, but mainly Crystal Light. Different varieties of Crystal Light. And that's back when Crystal Light was considered like an expensive drink. And it was different back then. It was like when it was in cups and stuff, like the little plastic cups. But I was just saying, I want to create a kid that can be independent, that can think on their own, that's not going to be easily influenced. If I give them a task and I'm like, hey, go outside, go play, go do something, and I have like some wood and nails or something outside or something, and like construction material, it's like, I would want my kid to go use those construction materials and go build something. When I was a kid, my dad, he had nails outside and he had wood and different things. And I would just build all different types of little things that I had. And my dad would get me wood and nails and just leave it outside. And he didn't care. It was like my toys. Like kids in China, when they're in childcare, they're learning to build construction and build stuff. And I don't see, and they're learning to cook and all this other stuff. And like people do that in some schools do that in the U.S. But I'm saying, I just basically want my kid to have the same skills that I had when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, I always went to uh, some kind of summer program where I was out in nature, I was out cooking, I was camping, I was learning to be independent. If I have a kid, they're gonna learn to grow food at a young age. They're going to learn to pick their food. If they get hungry, they're going to learn they don't need to come to me. They're not dependent on me. They can go get stuff. I don't like this where I see where like these modern parents, they're like, "Oh, I need to give my kid a snack. I need to do this for my kid." When I was a kid, my mom had containers where she had like cereal and different snacks in them, and if I wanted something, I would just go pick it up and eat it. I didn't need to go bug my mom every time. My mom, she encouraged me to be independent. And then it's like, I see like these other parents and like I hear this stuff on YouTube. It's like they're having free range kids and stuff, but it's like your kids are free range. They don't know better. And they're roaming off into stuff where they're like too young. It's like, I was 3 years old. I never had a pool around. I had a front yard and a backyard. I could roam around in my front and backyard and forage food and different things. So it was like I was never complaining I was hungry. I was foraging food and I had tons of stuff. And then there was stuff in my refrigerator. If I was hungry, I could just go and get it. My mom didn't have food restrictions on me. If I'm hungry, go eat. My mom, she would set out stuff for me. She never actually gave me a plate unless there was some reason, like we were at a restaurant or something. Otherwise, she'd have food out that was prepared, non-perishable. It might be on the counter. It might be in the refrigerator or on the table. but there was always food somewhere for me to eat and get, or I could just go pick some fruit off the fruit trees, or I could go pick some vegetables from the garden. I'd have tomatoes, all kinds of stuff in my garden. I used to have a big garden. And then I'd go see my great grandmother, and then I'd learn even more stuff of farm life. And it's like, I don't get this where people are like, oh, it's farm life. This is going to be so hard. It was like, I wasn't taught like hard farm life. It's like, why make something so hard if it can be easy? Like my garden outside, all I do is plant stuff every now and then and water it at the top. Some stuff gets eaten because when I was looking out the window earlier, it was a big blizzard. But this guy had the idea that I wanted to be like this hard, strict parent. No, I want to be a parent that teaches self love, education, and learning can be fun. It's like, how does that make me a bad person that I'm teaching my kid where their food comes from and they're having fun? They're getting dirty. I'm not saying you need to stay clean all the time. You can go run around in the mud. Like, I used to come home, and I wasn't even a little kid when I used to do this. I was probably like 13 years old. I used to go jump into the bay and come back, especially during storms, and I would be like covered in mud up to my knees, and my bike would be covered in mud and stuff. And my mom wasn't mad. She's like, you're learning. Go learn, go outside, go explore. And I do that to this day. Like when I get on Amtrak and I just go anywhere and I do all this stuff. But I'm just thinking, like, why would this guy think I would be like so abusive just because I want to have a kid that's educated? And he's like, well, I didn't raise my kid that way or whatever. And he became upset. And I'm trying to figure out, why is this guy upset with me? And he keeps trying to tell me I'm a gold digger, I'm an abuser, and all this stuff. And like when I was a kid, I started sewing and knitting and making clothes and different creative things and all this stuff, and with art and painting when I was young, because I used to do it with my parents, my grandparents, and I would just go out in nature and all this stuff, and I'd learn so much stuff. Like today, I can grow food, I can cook food, I can fix my clothes if they get messed up. And even though it was back in the day, I still had technology. I had a computer. I learned to use computers and stuff. And even though I was a little kid, I always, like, my games were always educational. Not all of them were educational. Like I played Monopoly, where you're thinking about finances. I played Connect Four, where you're thinking about strategy. I played checkers, and I always, in my family, we always, even when we watched TV, it was semi educational, like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune. And then we had handhelds, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and we had the Wheel of Fortune game on the computer and stuff. And then we do like Mavis Beacon and all these other math and other different things. And then we'd have our flashcards and go over all this stuff. And we'd have our educational stuff. And we also had religious education too. And I went to public school and I had a lot of stuff. And so it's really interesting that he would think I was so mean, because it's like when I was on another dating app and this guy was trying to talk to me, I'm like, I'm a pescatarian. I want to have kids that are a pescatarian. And he took it as me being abusive. And I'm like, I'm not abusive. It's like, if you eat meat, you feed your children meat. I don't eat meat necessarily. I'm going to feed my children what I eat. Why would I buy them something that I don't eat and that I wouldn't eat? Why would I feed them that? Yeah, and it's like I'd feed my kids seafood and stuff as long as they didn't have an allergy to it. I'd feed my kids whatever as long as they don't have an allergy. And if they're like, oh, I want to try that, I'd let them try it. I wouldn't give them like a regular thing. Like they're like, they want to try something, I'll take them to like a restaurant and they can go try it. But it was crazy how he took it that I was abusive, Because I was saying, and then he got back into the, oh, you want tax money or something? Because I said if I had a kid, I would want them to have a job when they turn 18. I mean, not 18, when they turn 14. Yeah, I was just laughing because so I was saying I wasn't qualified for something, and somebody thought I didn't want a full time job, and I was just trying something out. And they were like, "Oh, when do you want to come in for an interview?" Because I'm thinking of trying some stuff out. Um, but yeah, and they're like, "Yeah, you're definitely qualified," because people think I'm unqualified for a job or something I'm doing because of the job positions that I take when I'm overly qualified for the positions that I take. So people are always like, "Okay, this is odd." I just don't care to do stuff all the time. I like to have free time and explore. But I was saying how I would want my kid to have like a part-time job at like 14 to like start getting work experience. And I'd also want my kid to start going to college at 14 too. When I was 14, I was taking college classes and different things, getting experiences. And I just feel that I want to prepare a child the best way that I can. And I'm not going to pressure my child, and say, hey, you have to go to college here, you have to do this. I would encourage my child to start going to college at 14, exploring their options. 'Cause it was like I went to college at 14, but I was taking art classes. So it's like explore, but then also I want my child to be free, but I'm also sending them to community college. So it's like, yeah, no, my child's not going to be that free because I'm trying to keep my kids safe from predators. But I don't see anything wrong with having them have a part-time job. And even if my kid was smart enough to get a GED and everything, I'd be okay with my kid getting a GED or whatever, like 14, if they could get one, and then take college classes and get a degree, and then move on and stay at community college for maybe the next 4 or 5 years, and then figure out what they want to do, and then go to a university somewhere. It's like I want to be a free flowing parent that teaches my kids, and I wouldn't necessarily let my kids play like an organized sport. So I'm open minded, and I'm trying, and I'm looking for someone who would be open minded and love the same thing as me. Because like I want to give my kid like the suburban feel, but I also want them to have like the nature feel and be out in the country and get country skills. And I also want my kid to be efficient and city wise. And I want my kid to be independent and be able, like when they're like 14, like 13, 14. I was taking the public bus at like 12 by myself. I want my kid to be able to be independent where they can take the bus by themselves. Like I was taking the bus and the BART in like San Francisco, Oakland, Richmond, Berkeley by myself when I was like, I would say completely by myself, especially when I was like 12, 13. Yeah, because it wasn't like a big deal. It's not a big ride or anything. It's like, why not let them be independent and be safe? But when I think about it now, I probably would, because I wasn't necessarily taking BART all the time. I was taking other forms that were transportation that was safer, not necessarily BART. I didn't start taking BART by myself until I was probably like 14, 15. But I was taking buses and different things. But I would want my child to be independent where they're not depending on me for a ride. They know how to get around and take public transportation. They have a job and they can be independent. And I'd want to encourage my child too, because this is what my parents did, because it really made me think about what I was wearing and what I was doing and how I was dressing. And then it also made me think about budgets, because what do I need? Like they would buy me my school supplies and all that, but if I wanted clothes or something, they would get me like the bare basics, like pants, shirt, and everything. But if I wanted something that was different, and more expensive, then I had to go buy it. But they had to approve of what I bought, because if I bought something they felt was inappropriate, they tell me to return it, or they throw it away. So it was like being irresponsible, being responsible, making good choices. That was what I was responsible for when I was a kid. If you like, watch and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.